My name is Gina Papke, and this will be my 35th fire season. I was a hotshot for about 20 of those years, so been on hand crews the rest of the time, and then the last few years been in coordination. So I think that with being on a crew or hotshot crew, there's so many great stories, and every year, within that year, there's numerous stories that you could highlight and point out. But I've had some highlight fires. Yellowstone stands out in '87, where we were spiked out, and I had actually left the hotshot crews for a period and ran my own. At that time, there were only Type 2s or hotshot crews. So, but they thought they'd mistaken us for a hotshot crew, but we were spiked out for the majority of that time. We were there for about 28 days. So that was a highlight. And then just being on the hotshot crew, working for Paul Gleason. I worked for Paul Gleason for 3 years. And so working underneath Paul's guidance for a good part of that. When he first started teaching us about LCES, long before it came out to the public, he started teaching us and formulating the LCES components of the 10 standards and breaking it down into a more simplified version that people could memorize and remember. And he was teaching us that in 1983. So and then I believe it wasn't until the late 80s that LCES became kind of a common practice and common knowledge for the rest of the folks. But yeah, so I think just working for Paul, those were some great years, and some of the fires that we were on there. It seemed like when I first started, we didn't carry all the gear that we do now. We had our fire shelter and such, and our water bottles, but we were more commando. And as time moved on, we started carrying heavier and heavier packs, and with the space blankets and all the batteries and everything else. But it seemed like when I first started, we worked longer shifts, but yet we were more commando-like, and we didn't have all that extra weight on us. But things definitely changed. You know, we didn't have tents to sleep in. We were sleeping underneath deuce and a halves half the time, and which could be. I think there were some near misses on that when the deuce and a half would start up in the morning. But you know, we slept out in the open. We didn't have all the gear we have now, and a lot of that's been great. I mean, having your own tent, but we didn't have all that. We didn't pack as much gear as we do now. It was just more of just going in and fighting the fire. But there are so many stories that. I mean, my gosh, I mean, if you think about the New York fire, when we were there in '95 on the Long Island, it was the first time hotshots had been to New York. And, you know, when we show up, and there's more police on the fire than there are firefighters, and they were threatening to arrest us if they caught us with fusees in our pack. And, I mean, the fire itself wasn't anything to write home about. It was just the experience of being in New York and on Long Island, of course. And, I mean, just working with the structure firefighters, well, okay, they were there. I wouldn't say we were working with them, but it was just an interesting experience and just being there. And like I said, the fire itself wasn't anything spectacular. It was just the fact that we were in New York. And, you know, you could go back and look at all the different places you've been spiked out on, some amazing places that you would never get to go if you weren't on a hotshot crew. And some of the most beautiful landscape, and no trails lead to them, and you're hiking into these places. It's just, I think that those are the stories that I think stay with people, and then the camaraderie that you have with the crews. And each year the crew is a little different and brings a different dynamic, and I think that is what keeps that bond and that respect for each other. And then, you know, there's always going to be some people that they weren't made for being a hotshot, but being a hotshot was probably some of the best. It was the best time of my life. So.